Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a voiceover style video over some shiny hunting that we were doing. And I'm going to discuss and talk about the beta for PokéGems. It's a multiplayer Cobblemon server, and you can find all the information for it linked in my description. But I've played it for now, probably around 10 to 12 hours. So I think that I have some semblance of thoughts around the server, my experience so far, and what I like and maybe dislike, or things that could be like improved for the future. I'm in no way like affiliated with the server or the creators. I'm just a normal player like you are. So yeah. So first, I kind of want to start with the pros. Thinking about the region itself, I think the region is very strong. I like that there's towns and there's routes, which feels very similar to kind of like a normal Pokemon experience, which is nice and comforting. Sometimes when you go a little too far out of that experience, it can be a little jarring. So I appreciate that it has those similar elements. I think the sprites do look really nice, especially those sprites for kind of the custom Pokemon. There's like custom Seviper and some Centonian exclusive Pokemon. So if you didn't know already, the Cento region is the official region for the Pokegems server. It's a brand new region that they developed themselves, the developers of the server, and I think it's a really nice server so far. I also think along those lines, the battle animations are really smooth and polished. I think battles look great and they are really fun to do because a large portion of what you're doing in this beta right now is trainer battles as you train up your Pokemon, which I find that trainer battles are helpful in leveling up because all trainers will scale to your level, which is helpful since if we didn't have that trainer scaling, you probably would not be able to level up your Pokemon past kind of the local trainers in like a timely manner, um, which is interesting. And currently there is a level cap, so all Pokemon are capped over at level 50, which is interesting, and I think it'll continue to increase in the future. I have no issue with it being level 50. I got all of my Pokemon up to level 50 and challenged the last gym, and I found that it was significantly more challenging. I don't know if it was because all of the gym leaders' Pokemon were also level 50, or if it was just like any other reason. I think the overall design is thoughtful. The atmosphere is really strong. It's really fun to walk around, see Pokemon, see other players. I think that's kind of a pro. But I guess that's a pro to any kind of multiplayer Pixelmon or Cobblemon experience. So it's not super unique because, I mean, hopefully, whatever server you're playing, there's Pokemon and there's also at least a couple of people walking around. But it's really fun when you're walking around. You can see people walking around with their Pokemon. Sometimes you can even scan new Pokemon into your Pokedex. And I think that's a really immersive aspect. And it kind of like makes the atmosphere a little bit more fun when you're like walking around and I can see my friends and their Pokemon walking behind them. They can see me and my Pokemon. You can also carry your Pokemon on your shoulder. So you can have two Pokemon on each of your shoulders. I think it's size. It's not size inclusive, so it has to be like smaller Pokemon. That can like fit on your shoulder realistically, which I think is really nice. Um, I think that's like a really fun aspect too. If you've seen any of my thumbnails for any of the episodes, you'll most likely see one of a Pokemon on my shoulder, and that's like a feature in this that's been added to the server. I think it might be also a part of the mod pack as well. So kind of going into Pokemon, I'm gonna think about some of maybe like the cons. So obviously, because it is just a game in beta, there is a limited variety of available Pokemon that are currently available to the players in the experience. I think what I've really seen is there's like not a whole lot of fire types. Um, and the fire types that you do want are like hard to find. Like I really was like trying to find Salazzle, but I could not find a female Salandit anywhere. I don't know if Salandit's just like a really rare encounter, but I just could not find a Salandit that was a female. I found like a couple males, but Salazzle does not evolve unless it's a female Salandit. Um, and then obviously, like I was thinking about maybe Flareon, but I didn't have a Firestone, and we'll talk about that items and all of those things coming up later. Um, Also, kind of the variety of available Pokemon. We see a lot of baby Pokemon, which baby Pokemon are really fun and really cute. But the friendship system in the game currently isn't like working as expected. As you could see from my video where I was training up all my Pokemon, it took my Baneri to get to level like 46 before it would evolve. And I think Eevee took to like level 48, which I think is just maybe a little bit too much, and maybe the friendship system needs like overhauling and like fixing, because it probably shouldn't be that high. Like imagine Cleffa, you'd have to have a Cleffa level all the way up to like 45, 46 on average to get a like Clefairy, and then on top of that you're not guaranteed a Moonstone because the drops in the game are not there's no static drops, so you can't say like, oh, on this route or in this town you can find a Moonstone, or in this area. It's they're all randomized. Um, so there's really no guarantees you're going to get a Moonstone. You can always try to reach out to other players and see if you can trade for other stones. But again, like if somebody's finding one Moonstone, they're probably going to use it on their Pokemon, which is completely fair and right? I mean, like, there's items in the game like King's Rocks, which, like, I have multiple King's Rocks. Like, why would I ever even need multiple of those items? But it's, like, not, like, a popular item. So who can I really trade it with for, like, what, a Firestone to get Flareon? Um, so I feel like that was one of my issues in, like, the beta. But, I mean, that's, like, an easy fix as, like, the game continues and grows. But it's just kind of, like, something that I saw, so I wanted to mention it. And then going back to our positives, I want to talk about like the UI of the game. Like I think the user experience is really nice. Um, there is something really clean about the menus and the battle on screen like template that they've used and decided on, and like how the Pokédex looks, how the box and PC and the Roto Boys look. I think those are really nice options and everything. Also, going off of that in the Roto Boy, I love the taxi system. So you're not having to like walk manually from like place to place to place. You're able to like slash taxi in the game and go to anywhere that your Driftblim has registered to, which is nice. I think that's a really great aspect of the game because, yeah, it's kind of challenging to understand a new map. We also don't have like HMs in the game currently, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know if HMs are going to be like added to the game. And I mean, I kind of hope not. And that is just like always going to be a system where you're able to use, commands or items or in-game NPCs to travel around to different regions, because HMs are like annoying, and I don't even think HMs are like a part of the main series Pokemon games anymore. I haven't played one of the newer main series games in a long time, and the last game I played was Pokemon Platinum, which still had HMs. But back to Pokegems, we're just like losing the plot, of course. I think the encounter pool does feel a little bit repetitive going back to the variety of Pokemon. Um, you kind of see the same Pokemon on multiple routes, which I think is interesting. And some of those Pokemon's sprites have not been updated. I've heard that the sprites are available. Like the Cobblemon mod has most of the sprites that are um, showing up spriteless in game, which is just like, it's a part of a game being in beta, but I haven't felt comfortable using like the no overworld sprite Pokemon. They just kind of walk around in like a 2D animation, which like it really throws you off. Um, so I'm excited for those to be updated as well, because then it kind of opens up a little bit more Pokemon and a little bit more options to use. Because I don't feel like anybody in the server is really using those 2D animated sprites, because it just is like a little bit of like a weird, it just looks off. And if you've watched the playthrough, you've seen us run into a few of those 2D animated sprites. There's certain routes in the game where there's a lot of 2D sprites. Um, and that can be a little bit frustrating because that means that the list of available Pokemon is just like cut even lower. But speaking of those like repetitive, the repetition I think is really, it's really like made clear because a lot of the Pokemon that are available currently in the beta require items to evolve. And like we've said earlier, obtaining specific items is almost like near impossible. It's not impossible because people have done it and there's ways to do it. But if you're saying like, oh, I need a Thunderstone, there's no way in the game to like influence getting a Thunderstone. You're just kind of up, you're basically like gotcha pulling for a Thunderstone, which can be fun and it's like an adventure and an exploration, but it kind of does cut you off and limit you because, say, I have a Thunderstone, I have one Thunderstone, but I have Pikachu and I have Eevee. So I have to choose which one I want to evolve, and then I basically can never get Raichu in the game because I got my one Thunderstone luck, and then it's probably going to be cycled through to a different item. So I'd love to see like more Pokemon that don't require any stone evolutions added to the game, so that it feels like there's a bit of a balance. Because right now it feels like it's a almost like a 65-35 split between Pokemon that require items or friendship evolutions and just normal Pokemon that can evolve naturally. Because it's like I'm going even through like the first couple routes, and in my head I'm like, okay, we see Pichu on that first route that requires first of all friendship and a stone. We see Cleffa, that's a stone and a friendship evolution. We also see Possamel, which is a item evolution, and then we keep going in the cave. So it's like I'm just naming like that's what half of the Pokemon on the routes almost that require stone evolutions or friendship evolutions, which friendship evolutions are accessible because they're able to be done, but they are also not able to be done, I would say, like in a normal playthrough. Like, yes, I was able to do it in my playthrough, but if you're playing through the game and you're not trying to get all of your Pokemon up to level 50 to play the experience, um, it's not the most accessible. If you've played a normal Pokemon game, you can get a friendship evolution probably within like 20 to 21 levels if you're like doing it very unoptimized. If you optimize it a little bit, it can be a little bit faster. So that system is, when it's updated, it'll probably be a lot more fun. But it's, just a part of the beta itself. But I find it to still be a really fun and enjoyable experience to collect the different Pokemon. I think capturing Pokemon is really fun. I think the mechanic of like just being able to like run away from a Pokemon yourself and then the battle ends is really cool and interesting. So I think there's like a lot to be said about the beta, both pros and cons overall. It's still obviously a newer game and newer experience, so the routes feel really short. I think probably the largest con of the beta is that for 4 gym badges and 4 gym leaders, the game is really short. So I don't know if in the later stages of the beta they're planning on extending routes and having more in-game quests to do that are outside of like the trade quests, catching Pokemon quests, and battling trainer quests. Um, like more story related quests that could be something that could add a little bit of game time and kind of keep players from just going through, because I know that there's been people that I've talked to and people that have been playing along with us that have finished the game in probably, 2.5 hours, maybe even less if they just didn't, train up all their Pokemon, focus on like a few of them. I mean, you could just run through the whole game with the fire starter. Um, so it's like, that's the interesting part, but I would love to see in the future there be more routes, because I would say for 4 gym leaders and it being that quick, like I would either a think about shrinking like down to having like 3 available gym leaders or 2 available gym leaders and having a little bit more in between the routes and the gyms, so that like the experience feels a little bit more like whole. Because there was like one playthrough that I was playing where it was like, and it was probably like the last 2 parts of the series, where I'd done everything. All of my Pokemon were leveled up, and I could just walk from town to town to town and just collect all of those gym badges. I took it a little bit slower because I wanted to extend the playthrough and like have a little bit more fun with it. So I set like my own arbitrary challenges of like training all of the Pokemon up to level 50 before I took on the 4th gym leader. But I could have technically completed all 3 of those gyms in just one episode of my series, which just wouldn't feel like satisfactory and doesn't like feel like an experience of a game. It's just kind of like, I would say there's a big grind to get to the first gem, and I would say it's probably like a 1 hour, 1 to 2 hour grind, and then after that 2 hour grind to get to that first gem and get situated in the game, you can just beat all the rest of them like instantly. Because the levels will they will be relative to your Pokemon, so they won't be either too high leveled or too low leveled. And you can also skip all of the in-game trainers. You're not required to battle any of them. There's no rival, to my knowledge, that kind of requires you to battle. Um, so I'd love to see some of those additions be added in the future as well. Obviously, you know, I completely understand that it's just in beta form, but like these are just like smaller changes that aren't like related to models or related to kind of like any like game breaking or like big additions. It's just kind of like you can add a few more like fetch quests, and the fetch quests could just be like, I love that when you talk to a gym leader, you instead of doing gym battles, you do like a gym trial, like similar to Sun and Moon. Um, but the gym trials, I think, could be implemented as well into the game. Um, to kind of extend the playtime. So, say you're in the first town and you're at that stage where you're going from the first town into the cave. There could be somebody stopping you from going into the cave, and they're like, oh, you must show us um, like a level 15 Pokemon, or you must show us a level 10 Pokemon, or a specific Pokemon. Um, you have to show that you've caught it to continue on in the story. It would just like make the player pause for a second, have an opportunity to quest for a item, or even if it was like to get pet through the cave, there was like they'd added a few trainers to the cave, because I don't, to my knowledge, there's no trainers in that first cave, which I think could add again a little bit more playtime, a little bit more to do for the players. But it's like in that cave, there was somebody stopping the exit, and they were saying like, oh, you to continue through this cave, you have to beat all of the trainers in the cave, something like that. Just kind of like these like small elements that aren't like, adding any new like large routes or any kind of large builds for the team, but just small additions and changes, like adding a few more NPCs, fetch quests, can really just like add time onto the game so that there's more distance in between routes. Because right now, the game does feel pretty short, just in the first half of the gameplay, which is, again, it's a beta game. I completely understand that, but these are just kind of like what I'm thinking on like how to like extend that playtime in a way that's not super, resource intensive. And let me know down below in the comments, like, do you have any thoughts? Have you beaten all four gyms yet? And what were your thoughts about it? I have some of my viewers' thoughts as well that they've sent to me, and we've shared in our Discord server, which is linked down below. So if you want to join that server, feel free. We play a bunch of different games in there, and that's where you can kind of like give game suggestions and stream suggestions of different things that you want me to play, or anything that you want to share. I know that some people have said that the progression of the game is a little bit stilted. It's a little bit too easy. I see somebody here said that um, there needs to be more Pokemon added. There needs to be more item space available, which I think was actually just added recently. So I think there's a little bit more space for you to have your ender chest, because currently right now in the game, you're limited to 2 spaces. You're not able to have like your own base or your own home or your own build. You're not able to build on the server. There's no building. There's building restrictions. You're not able to build at all. So I think one of the issues previously was that people were running out of item space, because all you have is your inventory and an ender chest to put items in, because you don't have like chests or anything in the game, um, which is interesting. But I think somebody was just saying that they would love to see more item space, but I think that might have been added in the most recent update. If you want to check out all the updates as well, I'll link down below the PokéGems wiki, which has a direct link to their Discord as well. But I think just like in summary, I think there's just a lot that can still be added to the game, and I know they have plans to add a lot, but I think there's like small changes. that would really make the experience a lot more meaningful and a lot more engaging for players. Just the addition of hidden areas, secret items, or specific NPCs that would have like unique interactions. Because I'm thinking about the game from like I recently have played Baldur's Gate. Obviously, this is like a very different experience, but there's so many different NPCs that you can talk to in that game, and it kind of will send you around parts of the map, send you to different NPCs to talk to and get to know. So you're able to just have like a very full experience. I mean, Baldur's Gate and this are very different experiences, but I'm saying like, you can get lost in a town in Baldur's Gate for like 10 hours if you so please, and you talk to enough people and you do enough fetch quests or make a bad decision or make a good decision. And, so it's like there's a lot of different opportunities, I think. And if they are able to add kind of some more NPC interactions and add a few new Pokemon too to the game, I think that would be really fun. I also think my last and pretty much final point is that I feel like there should be a little bit more like battling support. So I remember in Gen 5, there was the trainer school and there was like an opportunity for people to battle in. I think that would be really fun if they added like a trainer school to the game. And it could be like a place where people could queue in and battle each other. I don't know where exactly on the map it would be. It would probably be somewhere like later in the map. And I don't know if they could do like level scaling or anything, but it would be cool if they could do something similar to that in terms of like level scaling and doing all that stuff. But it's obviously a level 50 cap, so maybe it's just people join at their own risk. You have level 50s, or you might just get wrecked in the trainer school. And maybe you would even get rewards for winning trainer battles against other players in the server. I think that could be another way to add some more like fun aspects to the game and add some more like end game things to do. Obviously, they're working on like the actual game before they're working on like the end game. But I mean, like when you beat the beta, like what do you do? And so that's really like pretty much my final thoughts on the beta. Overall, it was a really fun experience. And obviously, I've logged like what, 10 to 12 hours you've seen on our channel so far. We've been playing a lot of it. And I'm looking forward to the new additions that get added in the future. So if you want to check out my full Pokegems series, feel free to check out the link below in our description and check out the full playlist. And subscribe to this channel so you don't miss whenever we upload more Pokegems content. We're also playing PokeMMO on the channel. We're streaming that live on Twitch, which is also linked down below in the description. So like, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you're always notified when I post more YouTube content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye everybody!